What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in last week's video, we covered basically all the stuff that I've bought, and just kind of where things are at with the block, the machining, the transmission. It was just really an update and haul video of all the new stuff I got. And I ended it off with saying I was going to go ahead and start assembly on the motor, but first I had to check the bearings, and if everything checked out and all the tolerances were in the range that I wanted, then I was going to go ahead and start assembly. Well, come to find out they weren't. I'll go ahead and read off what some of the tolerances were and like what we're aiming for. So when we did our main journal checks, they were pretty tight at first. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the bearings so you guys can just get the point of where it was at. So we got some mismatched main bearings in here. Well, sort of mismatched. So some of the tolerances we're going, well, really our tolerance that we're going for is we want 2.5 to 3 thousandths clearance between the crank and the bearing. We don't want any less or really any more. I mean, if it's a little more, it's okay. It's not the biggest deal because I'm not building some crazy high horsepower performance motor, but we really want between 2.5 and 3 thousandths clearance between here. Reason being is whenever you start spinning these motors up or put nitrous or anything like that to them, the cranks like to flex, and if there's no room for them to flex, that's when shit starts breaking and bad things happen. But when we went ahead and went and checked them, so the main cap number 1 was 2.5 exactly, and then number 2 was like 1.5, so it was pretty tight. 3 was 2.5, and then the rest were all 1.5. Number 4 and 5 were 1.5. And we obviously knew that was way too tight. We stuck the crank in dry just to see if it would spin. It was hard to spin it at first, but then it would spin, but then it would come to a stop pretty easily. It wouldn't just freely spin all that great. And then we put it in lubed, same thing. It helped it spin a little bit, but it would still come to a clanking stop. So we went ahead and we tried sanding the bearings down, the ones that were tighter, to see if that helped us out. We wet sanded them with 1200 grit, and it still didn't help, so we went ahead and ordered some off-size bearings, which are these black ones, and now everything's between 2.5 and 3 thousandths clearance on those. So now it's the next weekend, and we're going to go ahead and drop the crank in, and I'm going to start assembling everything. I'm going to get the main caps in, and I'm just going to see how far I can get. And then I also got started on the rod bearings and the clearances on those. We're going for like 2.2 thousandths clearance between these, and so far they've been like 2.5 to like 2.4. They're a little bit more, but honestly it's not that big of a deal. Like I said, it's not some crazy high horsepower performance motor. We're just 450 horsepower minimum, gonna go out there and basically just have fun and chop up the block. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna try and get as much as I can filmed. I'm still not 100% sure how much I'll film. Like I said, this is really my first learning experience. I would do a time lapse. I just literally don't have enough room on my phone to record hours of us putting this together and doing things and checking tolerances, re-ringing the pistons, and just putting everything together. I just don't have the room on my phone. But I'm going to try and record as much as I can possible, just to kind of show you guys the process of what we're doing, what I'm learning, and me and my dad putting this thing together. That's our update so far. I'll pick up the camera once we go ahead and start dropping the crank in and start torquing everything down. I'll kind of show you guys what I'm doing and like torque specs and things like that. But yeah, we're right there. Okay, so we're actually at the point of now we're bolting the crank in. So we went ahead and we lubed up all the journals, got all the bolts in. Big thing, make sure you lube your bolts whenever you're tightening them down. We do some lube on the threads, and then we also do some lube underneath the head. So we went ahead, got all that lubed up. We got the bolts just snugged down, they're not torqued in yet. This is a 6-bolt main, so on these you have different torque specs on these. The center ones, these ones go to 65, and the outer ones go to 55, and then the little ones on the outside go to 35. And when you go ahead and torque these down, you're going to start with the center bolts, and you're just basically going to work your way out. You just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you do the same thing on the outside. So you start at 15, do all your center bolts, and then you pop out to the bigger ones, work or start from the center, work your way out, do those at 15, then you go to 35, do all your center ones, work your way out. and then do 35 on the outer ones, and then so on and so forth to 55 and then 65. And then once those are all in, then you go through and you bolt in all your last final 10 bolts into the side of the main caps from the outside, and those go 15 into 35 foot-pounds as you're torquing them down. So yeah, there's really that. We haven't done it yet, but we're just going to go ahead and do that, but that's just kind of what we're doing just to show you guys how we do it. What's up, guys? It's been another week again since you've seen me. I'm wearing different clothes as last time. So last time I told you guys we were going to go ahead and bolt the crank in. We did that. We're still filming the same video. This will all be in the same video. Went ahead and bolted the crank in. That's all good. But then I told you I had to measure all the rod bearings and go from there just to kind of see how everything was going to be. Make sure all the tolerances were correct, and ours were way off. They were all 3/1000 tolerance, and rod 5 was 3/2000, so that's way off. We did a little bit more research on kind of the rule of thumb with rod bearing tolerances is you want to measure your journal size, and that's usually how many thousandths of tolerance you want between your bearings and your journal. So like on our journal, on our crank here, they're a 2-1 journal, so you want 2/1000ths tolerance between your bearings and your journal. So obviously ours were way off, and to show you, we ended up having to order half-size bearings, and now they're all 2/1000ths tolerance between all these, so these will be all set up. They're all great. We already measured them. I'll go ahead and show you guys how we measure our tolerances just to kind of see what we're doing, because we use bore gauges and a micrometer to get everything right. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how we did that. Okay, so this is how we do it. So we roll it over. Obviously you don't want the oil galley holes right there to be in your micrometer how you're measuring. So you want to make sure your micrometer is all zeroed out and within spec. That's all calibrated. And really what you're doing is you're measuring your journal with the micrometer to see how tight it is. You don't want it super tight, but you don't want it super loose either. Like that right there, that's a 2-1 journal, so that fits pretty nice. It's not super loose, it's not super tight. Go ahead and measure that. And then we'd throw it up in the vise over here, and we'd clamp that in, and that's when we'd get the bore gauge, and we'd set our bore gauge between the micrometer on this. This is really a two-person job on this part. You set your micrometer between, or your bore gauge between your micrometer, and then you're going to adjust your bore gauge till the needle goes to 0. So then when you pop it into the bearings, into your journal on your rod, you're going to go ahead and it's going to tell you how many thousandths are difference between the rod journal and the bearings. So that's how we measured all our tolerances and bearings and everything like that. Just kind of show you real quick. So pretty much from here, since all the rods are all good, they're all set, they all got their half thou, they're all 2/1000ths to match the rod journal over here on the crank. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to start ringing up all the pistons. We're going to get all the rings on there. And then we're going to go ahead and pop them into the block. We're going to get those in. We're going to torque them down. I'll show you all the torque specs for that when we get to there. And then once the rods are in, we're going to go ahead and roll this puppy over and then continue from there. We're probably going to end up doing the timing, roll the cam, and then timing set and all the things like that. Okay, we're back again. Another week has gone by. I think the last time I filmed, I said I was going to go ahead and put the rods in this. Measured all the rod bearings. They're not right. We got them right. As you can see here, I'll flip the camera around. All the pistons are in. They're all re-ringed. They're in. They're tightened. And a lot more has happened. As you can see, the cam's in there, and the timing set's in there. So since the last time I filmed, the pistons and all that and everything weren't in. So we went ahead and installed those. Got the rings all in. Got the right bearings. Went ahead and torqued them in. The rod bolts, they go ahead and they torque in at 50 foot-pounds. And then I work a night shift, so I'm not really here, and I don't really have the tools. We wanted to make sure we talked to our really good friend Chris Plankenhorn, amazing engine builder. So he's got all the shims and stuff to shim out the valve springs, so he went ahead and did those when I was at work for me. I don't have the experience. I've never built heads, and he just went ahead and did those for me. So we got brand new Texas Speed and Performance 660 high lift valve springs with titanium retainers in here. And then also yesterday he came by. We had to degree the cam in. I've never done that. And we had a 2-piece timing set, the cog for the oil pump and the lower crankshaft gear to. Okay, sorry, my dad's phone was ringing. But yeah, he went ahead and he degreed the cam in, so um, all the timing sets on and the camshaft's on. So we're just going to kind of go ahead and continue on with building this. I know the video is taking forever to film all this, but it was just dealing with the bearings. From here on out should be smooth sailing. So there's that. And I also got my lifters in, so I've been soaking those. Actually, I just dropped them in a bucket of oil here just to soak them up so they're all ready to go once I go to drop them in. Those have got to soak for 2 hours before I can use them. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and put my oil pump on. So the oil pump will go on, and then I'll put my pickup tube and then the baffle between the oil pan. And once that's in, then I am going to go ahead and I think I'm actually going to put my um, oil pan on and my front timing cover and the rear plate cover. Go ahead and throw those on and then probably wait a little bit because that should be pretty quick. So I don't know if that'll give me enough time of letting my lifters soak, but once those are done, I'm gonna go ahead and put my lifters in and start working on the heads, getting those put on. And I'll just kind of pick up the camera here and there, just kind of letting you guys know where I'm going. But let's just start off with the oil pump. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out of the bag and I'm gonna install it. All the bolts, there's 4 bolts to that. Those all go to 18 foot-pounds. Okay, so I got the oil pump all mocked up on there. So like I said, 18 foot-pounds. I got a fancy snap-on wrench, but you'll go ahead and put the bolts up in there. I cleaned them off. I know the heads are a little bit rusty, but it's really not that big of a worry. It's just surface rust. I went ahead and put a little bit of blue Loctite on there, and then popped those in there, and they got them loose fitted in there. And I'm just going to cross pattern back and forth to 18 foot-pounds, and then that should be good for the oil pump. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and roll the motor over, and I'm going to get the pickup tube in there and then my baffle plate on. Okay, it's been a few hours since I picked up the camera. I kind of got excited and kept going and got ahead of myself and just didn't pick up the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys where I'm at, what I've got done, and just kind of go from there. So it's a little different. It's not too much different. So I'm going to go ahead and sit down for this one. So I went ahead, got my oil pump on. It's underneath here, which I showed you guys. It's underneath the timing cover. And then I went ahead and got my baffle plate all up underneath. It's inside the oil pan. And then put my pickup tube on. And then I also got my oil galley plug. It's on the other side and it's hidden underneath this rear cover plate. But it's over there. It controls whether oil goes through to your screen, through your motor and your filter. Extremely important. Got that in. And then a little thing on the oil pan and putting the covers on, front and rear covers. Basically, so the oil pan bolts into your timing cover and your rear plate. So with that being said, if you bolt these in before you do your oil pan, you can actually have serious leaking issues with oil. So actually they say to do your oil pan first. So bolt your oil pan in, and then, well, you can put these on first, your front and rear cover, but leave the bolts loose to the covers so they can move around with the oil pan, and then go ahead and bolt your oil pan in to 18 foot-pounds to all the bolts. The rear ones are 106 inch-pounds. So go ahead and do all your side covers and front all the way around, and then 106 inch-pounds on these tiny little ones that go to the back cover. And then once you have those bolted in, you can go ahead and torque your front timing cover down to 18 foot-pounds, and same with your rear cover bolts to 18 foot-pounds. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. It's kind of late. It's almost 9 o'clock right now. I'm going to go ahead and just stop here for the night. I'll probably pick this video up tomorrow. Tomorrow the plan is, since my lifters have been sitting in oil bathing for a while, I'm going to go ahead tomorrow and I'm going to pop my lifters in here. And I'm going to go ahead and get the buckets that sit in and hold the lifters in place. I'm going to get those in, and I'm going to pop the heads on, get the heads all bolted in. And then that's pretty much all I'm going to do from there. I'm not going to put the valley plate in because I'm going to get one of the lift plates so I can put the motor in that way that go from the valley cover. Other than that, there's not really too much left I can do to the motor before I would like to drop it in my truck and finish assembly there. But yeah, there's that. But then tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and me and my dad are going to try and pull out the motor and the blue bug, start getting the motor torn apart for a refresh, and we're going to start building that motor up even more. And then I also got to change the trans pan gasket on the Jeep. So yeah. we're gonna pick this up tomorrow. All right, what's up, guys? I didn't really realize, but I was gonna go ahead and end the video there. I told you guys I'd pick up the camera the next day, which that's today, and I did, and I decided I was gonna stop the video there and make a part 2 of the assembly. And I also said I was gonna pull the motor on the Bug and do some work on the Jeep, and then also assemble more of the engine. Well, I ended up not getting time to the Bug motor, but that's gonna be soon enough, and I'll obviously show you guys that and film as much as possible. I ended up working on the Jeep, and that was way longer of a project than it needed to be, so I didn't really pick up the camera because it was just a pain in the ass. But I did get the lifters in and the heads on, and you guys will obviously see that in a part 2 of this next video. But I just want to go ahead and end things off here and kind of update you guys and let you guys know, and just kind of end things off good and with a positive vibe. So I just want to say, as always, boys, keep your head up, keep a smile on your face, stay positive, and keep the goddamn moles classy, boys.